share screen.
I just feel guilty, like that's.
It's fine.
All right, Sarah, you should be able to
You can-
unmute
since you
at
have
will
way
now.
less than I- oh.
What do you want? Just take it right now, okay?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm looking at this one with the card doc. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
Anyone
It is 7 o'clock. I call the, whatever day today is, January 8th school committee meeting to order. That was very professional.
Yes, we should start right there.
So we're going to have, we've got a member remote tonight, so we'll do everything by roll call. So we'll first do a call to order. Sarah? Here. Aaron?
Here.
Here.
Carla?
Here.
Laura?
Here.
And Sean is here. Okay, let me do a quick walk through the agenda and then we'll jump in. We'll start with public comment. If Dr. Quorum has anything to say on anything that's not on the agenda tonight. We will not have a focus on excellence this evening. We'll move to our consent agenda, go into reports, and then in the new business section, tonight's the first night of our 3 nights of budget discussions. So we'll have an overview of the sort of process to developing the budget tonight. We'll have a presentation of the budget itself and any discussion on that. And then 2 weeks from now, we'll have our formal public hearing on the budget where, we'll open the hearing, see if there are any questions, close the hearing, probably about 8 seconds later, if history is any guide. And then we'll take our formal vote to submit the budget on the 29th, would be the plan. So tonight's just the first night of a 3-night process. In the old business section, we're going to revisit fees on transportation. There's some additional information in the packet that the committee requested last time. And then we will have a further discussion and hopefully take a vote to approve next school year's calendar. In the new business section, we've got some updates and some items to approve in terms of the superintendent search process. So that is our agenda for this evening. Let's start with public comment for anything that is not on the agenda. Anybody? Nope? Okay. Let's move then to the consent agenda. And is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
And we will go to a roll call. Sarah? Yes. Aaron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And Sean, yes. Thank you. Okay. Let's go to reports, and we will start with our students.
All right,
Who
we
wants to
got a pretty short one tonight, but still a full page. All right, upcoming events. Starting on January 13th, we have Junior Guidance Parent Night, kind of starting to walk junior families, such as my own, through the college application process, which is, I don't know, unfortunately or fortunately beginning for us right about now. So there's a good amount of time before we have to really start worrying about applications with this, kind of trying to get the ball rolling. On the 20th, we have Future Freshman Night at 6:30 p.m. That'll be welcoming all the rising freshmen that are currently in 8th grade. January 20th through 23rd, it's getting ever closer, our midterms, so we'll have a week full of those. On January 26th, there will be a PTO quarterly board meeting from 7 to 8 p.m. in the library here. On January 29th, there will be Career Day for juniors. We'll talk more about that later. And then also on the 29th, we have 8th grade arts freshman night. It's like a future for freshman night, but specifically for the arts. So now the news.
Yeah. So Alumni Day took place on January 6th. 15 recent RMHS graduates returned to the high school and spoke about their first experiences to the senior class. This is an annual event that is incredibly informative to seniors that are in the midst of deciding which colleges to attend and determining their paths after high school. The alumni also stayed for an additional hour and met with the administration, counseling staff, and department heads for a more in-depth discussion about where they were prepared for college, or where they saw that RMHS had an opportunity to better prepare graduates for life after high school. Ms. Williams organizes this event each year, and it is pivotal in our work for continued growth and such a moment of pride to see RMHS graduates persisting and succeeding in their life after high school. I was there. It was a pretty informative session. I know a lot of people went so they could say hi to their old friends. I know some in particular were like Justin Ramo and Tamia, who I haven't seen in forever. So, yeah.
And the last thing, going back to Career Day, which will be on January 29th, like we said, we're super excited because we've expanded Career Day this year to include over 40 different professionals attending with representation from fields of medicine, public service, law, arts, design, trades, business, counseling, all that good stuff. So we're really happy because we got so much more diversity in terms of different career paths. So the guidance team shared that they're really hoping that the junior class will be able to kind of find something that suits their liking, or find a few things that will kind of push them in the right path about where they want to go to college, what they want to study. So everyone's hoping it's going to be a really informative day. I hope it's going to be a really informative day, as someone who has no clue what he wants to be when he grows up. So,
You and me both.
Join the club.
Yeah.
but yeah, we're looking forward to that. And that is everything we have.
Junior.
Awesome.
Oh, we did.
Thank you both.
Can I ask
Go
a
ahead, Tom.
question?
Yeah, please.
Sachi, do you recall anything that you heard from Justin, to me, and others that in particular was an area of growth and improvement for us?
I don't know.
And an area that we did really well in? I won both, actually.
I didn't hear anything specific that wasn't necessarily like new knowledge to me. What I will say is that some of my friends did think we would maybe more one-on-one opportunity to talk to the people who were there privately, so you didn't need to go and ask in front of everyone. For me, there wasn't much new knowledge. I just enjoyed seeing all my friends and stuff, and it was great. So yeah, that was pretty much my take on it.
I'll give you my Sophia was there, and one of the things she had mentioned was that one of the students in some of these colleges, the getting into clubs is really competitive. It's not like you can't just join a club, you have to interview for it. So one of the students said they would have liked more one-on-one interview skills, so they could do that. And I guess for the schools that are requiring an interview, right, you
Yeah.
want those types of skills too.
I think that would be great. I know, I tried to go for an interview for an internship recently, a senior internship, which, I couldn't do because of my AP classes, but I still wanted to go and see if it was a possibility during the summer. But, I remember emailing, Mr. Scaff, who was coordinating all of it, do I need a resume? What do I do for this? A lot of us, I have job experience, coaching tennis, but I don't have job experience actually working a professional job. So I know for some people who also went for interviews, people weren't sure whether they should dress up, how should they bring their resume, how many copies of the resume should they bring, what should be on their resume. And I feel the high school doesn't really offer much when it comes to that, especially considering how competitive the job market is at the moment, for people straight out of high school, for people straight out of college. I think that might actually be really, really useful to have something like that here, so.
Yeah. They have those Dress for Success that I remember in college having, but I think in business school, they give you a little bit more of that, but I can actually still remember the woman who did the presentation, because she came in a very frumpy outfit, and I was like, really? She's going to be teaching us? And well, those were in. But then I got that, Sean, thank you. And then she literally started taking off layer of clothing until she looked fabulous, in her professional suit, and I didn't forget it, because it's important. So, but those types of interview skills and stuff
Yeah. Yeah.
would be a good thing.
It's good feedback.
Awesome. All right,
Could
well,
be
you
some
know the drill.
interesting memes out of this meeting.
Thank you both. You know the drill.
Awesome.
You're welcome to hang out, but you also have a million other things going on, so
Skip the economics part of it.
you get it.
Totally not like that's what I'm gonna major in.
All right, let's go to reports, and we'll start with Dr. Milichewski.
Great, two quick updates. One, calling all future Rockets. Kindergarten registration is now open as of last night, which is exciting for the next generation of students. We're encouraging all community members with kindergarten aged or now preschool, kindergarten eligible students to register ASAP. We've shared all of our materials to be guaranteed placement in home school. Please register within the month. So we've talked about kindergarten projections. We know how kind of tight they are in some schools. So if you're out there and you're watching and you have a kindergarten age student, please make sure to register ASAP. More information on the website. Two, just to also flag a community, I think was becoming an amazing community event every year is on January 19th, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration, which is, I think, a great collaboration between so many of our departments across the schools and towns. And something I really like is that every year I feel like it's increasingly planned and executed, facilitated by students. So I think that Albert Pless, his team have done a great job leaning on so many of our talented students. So 9:30 to 11:30 here at the PAC with the breakfast. I would love to see so many members of the community come out to be here for what is really a wonderful community event.
Great. Let's do liaison reports. Sarah, I'll wait for you to come on video to know you're ready. Oh, there you are. Oh, we'll give you a minute. Let's start with Aaron. No report. Okay. Aaron.
No report.
Tom?
CPAC on Monday had their review with Phil. I haven't heard anything, so hopefully it went well, which not hearing something is usually a good sign. And not much to say regarding us with regards to Select Board or Finance Committee. I will say that these books finally came in, so we'll be dropping them off after this meeting down at the central office, so the staff can start their professional learning appropriately.
Did we mention that the Select Board did extend the contract with RCTV or sign a new contract with RCTV, which certainly is relevant to us, so
Fair
good news
point.
there for the schools. Yeah,
Good addition.
I can't remember if that happened before or after our last meeting.
I think it was after our last meeting,
yeah.
or right when we were meeting is, I think, is what
It was
happened.
like the same night?
Same night, yeah.
That's right,
How
yeah.
long of a contract?
It's 3 years, yeah.
Three.
Yeah,
Three or five?
I thought it was
Three or
3.
five?
3 with options, maybe? Who knows? There's a
It
contract
was
for
a
now.
si- it
But
was
not
a-
like another,
It's
like.
not 6 months.
It's not 6 months, it's a
Great.
sort of a full contract term, so. Carla?
I'll just make it quick. We have our next KSBC meeting on January 20th, and we've had meetings on 3 different topics: furniture, fencing, the barricade, not the sport, and room numbering. Who knew room numbering could be so difficult, but it is.
Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Laura?
No report.
And I've got nothing else, so that's good. All right, so let's.
You've got a hand.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Corn, please.
Jeffrey Corum, Finance Committee. Just as sort of a Finance Committee liaison thing, I wanted to point out there is a Department of Local Services. The state is coming to Reading to give a financial policy training workshop on Thursday, the 29th. So if anyone's interested in that, contact me or Joe Carnahan, the FinCom chair. The registration is due tomorrow, so I'm not, yeah.
At
It's
what
during the
time?
day.
It's during the day, 9 to 1.
Oh, I was like, we have a
Yeah.
meeting.
We have our budget vote that night, but yeah.
What
during the
time?
day.
9 to 1, I think, at the library.
Yeah.
So it's to help your community develop financial policies that promote sound, consistent fiscal planning and effective financial management.
Seems like a good idea.
Will it be recorded, do you know?
I don't know.
It's a public meeting from, is all of Finance Committee going? Do you know if it's being posted?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know who all is going, and, because it's during the day, I'd be surprised if everyone was going. I think
Yeah, that's the
we
problem.
might not even have quorum going, just in
So
terms of.
for our committee, if anybody is planning to attend, just let me know so I can make sure we get posted. If we're gonna have quorum, I can't imagine we will, but just in case, let me know.
Tough time.
Okay, so with that, let's go to new business and the budget. So Dr. Milczewski and Phil, you can take it away.
Great, so I think it was split up into two separate agenda items. This first one may be the quickest agenda item ever. So it's just to say, in terms of FAQ, if you want your voice heard as part of officially sort of the budget process, please submit any questions to Olivia Lejeune by January 22nd. That's at 11:59 PM, that's after the budget hearing. That will then allow us to have about a week to respond. So all questions will then be shared in an updated budget book and an FAQ doc on the 27th in advance of the school committee vote on the 29th. So again, any questions, just submit electronically. We're always open to conversations or calls that way, but just a way to officially record any questions that you may have.
Question.
Go ahead.
Is there, I know that that is the hearing night, right? Is there a plan for us to have any further discussion that night, or other than the hearing? And obviously, the vote is the next week, but, so I'm just wanting to make sure that if there are other questions that might want to be addressed that night, to plan for any adjustments, if any adjustment is necessary, is there another cutoff time for that?
We can have discussions on any of the 3 nights, including tonight. So, only one of them is formally a hearing, but we can have discussions on any of the 3 nights. So I guess I would point that to you. If there's anything you want answered by the 22nd, the 15th? Give you a week to do homework and research?
That
Is
would be
fair?
great. That would be great. And also, we can put an agenda item also as like budget discussion too on the 22nd as well if we want. But yeah, if the-
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably included in the concept of the hearing, so I'm not that anxious about a separate line item for it, but is that fair? A week out?
great,
Okay.
Thank you.
thanks. All right,
All right. We get the budget presentation.
here it comes. It's coming up.
Oh. Oh, there it is.
Steady as we go.
So as Mr. Wise alluded to, Monday night I did meet with CPAC. It's the second time they've invited me to come in and speak with them a little bit about the budgeting process and things like that. As there was not a line coming out of the superintendent's office on Tuesday, I'm assuming it went pretty well that night as well. So this is sort of a continuation of that, or an expansion of the presentation that I did Monday night to the special ed folks, and obviously this will be the entire budget. So as you can see, the theme for the budget process this year is steady as we go. And I think that pretty much tells you what the budget looks like for fiscal year '27. Can I have the next slide? Oh, we can go, that was just my trying to show I can actually work with PowerPoint. So for fiscal year '27, it is a true level service budget. So what do we mean by level service? That means most non-personnel lines have been level funded. As I note, that's for most of the lines. Some of them have been adjusted as needed. For example, special ed transportation's been changed. Some of the lines for software and things like that have also been changed. But it's as close to level funded as we can. And we've also, once again, had the managers go through and adjust their budget lines to be based on their actuals, so that we get the budget to be reflecting a little bit, to better reflect how they are spending their money. On the personnel, I'm calling it's a level service budget. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that we will have enough staff to be able to continue to provide the services that we're currently doing now. I say that because the FTEs are actually down by 1, and I don't want to say that we don't, it's a same number of FTEs, because it's not a slight change in terms of being down 1 FTE. But it is in terms of services to be provided. The staffing is there to be able to provide all the services that we're providing to the students as of right now. So that is what this budget represents. Continue to do what we're doing now. No cuts, no adds. So for '27, having met with the town's finance committee and getting direction from them, we all know that it's a tight year for '27 for all the departments across the town. So we're doing our part as well with that. Overall, the increase that the school department has received between both the operating side and the accommodated cost side is just over 2%. Now, we were able to get the budget to stay at a level service budget because we were able to utilize some of our other revenue sources to make up some of the areas where we need the additional funds to maintain our current level of services. And that's also one of the challenges in terms of trying to do a year-over-year comparison, since right now what we're really looking at is the general fund budget and it doesn't look at the other funding sources. So depending on whether or not we are adjusting how much of a given cost center revenue is coming from different funding sources, it makes a year-over-year comparison sometimes a little challenging. And I'm doing that to set the stage to talk about special ed, where it shows a 3.3 year-over-year decrease, when it's really not a 3.3 year-over-year decrease. That's just out of the general fund. And that was part of the reason why we met with CPAC on Monday, because I wanted to go through that, because I knew if that got out there, that might raise lots of questions, and part of the process on Monday was to go through that whole process to show folks where all the revenue is coming from and what it really means at the end of the day. All right. The next page, again, is just to repeat that, again, the budget has been designed, and it is capable of meeting all of the things that we're doing now in terms of all of our contractual obligations to all of our bargaining units, as well as all of our out-of-district placements for special ed students. Again, what we're doing now, we will continue to do for fiscal year '27. So this is the recap showing the budget by cost center. I'm not going to go through each cost center in excruciating detail tonight. There are a couple that I am going to spend just a little bit of time on. As you go down, you'll see that special education is showing that it's a year-over-year decrease of 3.3%. There are 3 items that are causing that change, and I'll get to that a little bit later on. For school facilities looks like it has a large increase, but again, that's another situation where the offsets have changed in that last year we were anticipating having an offset of $238,000 against the facilities expenses. This year it's down to $100,000, so that makes it look like it's at least on the general fund side, it is a larger increase, but overall, the overall increase is about 4%. Athletics, that goes the other way. Athletics looks like it's barely hitting 1%. And by the way, I round my numbers, folks, so 0.8 I've rounded to 1%. But that's because the offset that we are using for athletics, we've increased that offset. In other words, reducing what we need to charge to the general fund, because we've got a little more revenue coming in on the fee side. And the other one is technology. Technology is the one area where we did have to make some adjustments to the budget. We've had some, one piece of software that came off of a 3-year contract that we had not budgeted for this year, so we had a budget for next year as well as just getting the budget to reflect what we're actually paying for some of our software. It was a little bit behind in terms of what we had budgeted for last year, so just trying to do some budget cleanups there. So once you go through all that, on the general fund side, it's a 2% increase year over year. The next page just shows the breakdown into percentages, and overall, 27 hasn't really changed from what it's been for the last number of years. If you look between regular day and special education, those 2 cost centers in total for the last 5 years have varied between 89.8% and 90.3% of the overall budget. So again, we're pretty much in line as to where we've been for the last number of years. And again, just to reiterate, this budget reflects all the investments that have been made over the last 4 or 5 years as well. Again, there are no reductions in this budget. I do want to spend a minute or two on this. This is the schedule that reconciles the FTE changes from 26 to 27. I got to change my glasses so I can't read with these. So if you look at the operating side, for fiscal year 26, the FTEs was 625.8, and for 27, it's 622.8, which is a reduction of 3, and I'll go through what's driving that. Then on the grant side, it was 30, I can't even read with my glasses on.
38.
Thank you, 38, and now we're up to 40. And then the last line's a new one, which is called the special ed tuition. This year, we have a couple of students from other districts whose districts have sent them here to Reading to utilize some of our special ed programs, and therefore we are able to charge those sending districts at a rate that will cover our costs. And both of these students, we had 2 students that came in, each of which required a one-to-one para, which we did hire, and then we just charged that straight back to the sending district. But they weren't in the budget for last year. So if you look through, in terms of regular day is an overall increase of 1.9. We have one position that was the tech integrator. Who was it that retired?
Kathy Santilli.
We had the
You don't
tech.
need to, yeah, that's Kathy Santilli.
Yeah,
but-
Kathy Santilli retired, and we have moved that position over to special ed as a new inclusion specialist. We had a slight FTE adjustment in terms of one of the PE teachers. And then we had 3 paras that had been in special ed that were reclassed up into regular day. For the most part, it's my understanding, it just reflects the changing needs of some of the students. So we moved them out of special ed, and that was a discussion between both special ed and 2 assistant superintendents to figure out where those 3 positions were going. On the special ed side, again, we have the added staff of the new inclusion specialist. We have an add to staff on, is there as well, is we had a BCBA that had been budgeted down in the IDEA grant. We moved that position out of the IDEA grant and brought it up into the general fund, and we changed it from a a BCBA to another inclusion specialist. And then we had the 3 paras that were moved up to regular day, and then we had 4 paras that were moved out of the operating budget down to the IDEA grant. So all in all, that's what accounts for the reduction of 3 paras in terms of what's being charged to the general fund. Under the grants, you'll see that we've got the transfer of the 4 paras from special ed, the operating budget, down to the grant, and the 1 reduction of the BCBCA. So that's an increase of 3 being charged off to that grant. And then we have a reduction of 1 position out of METCO. Do you want to talk about that one, Tom, or? Nah.
Which one?
The METCO director
position.
position, the 1 reduction in METCO.
Yeah, that was given that we don't have the full-time director position, the co-director position stipend.
Yeah.
We're just taking it out of the budget. It's
Correct.
not, we're not eliminating a role or anything
Correct.
that we're doing, that we currently
Correct.
have, yeah.
And then finally, we budgeted the 2 one-for-one paras that are needed for the 2 students that are tuitioned in. Obviously, if those students do not come back, those positions will not be needed. So you add that all up, overall, it looks like there's an increase of a 1.0 FTE. Again, it's really down 1 because of some of the minor tweaks that we made within special ed and the 2 one-to-one paras for the 2 tuitioned in students. You know, one of the things that's always another challenge, especially with special ed changes every day, so the needs of the students change. So, you know, we may need to, take a couple of para positions and turn it into a teaching position. You know, we do what we need to do in order to meet the needs of the students, which is kind of what messes around with the FTEs. So that is the high-level reconciliation of the FTEs for the 27 budget. All in all, it's steady as we go. The next one is just a pie chart. I'm not sure why I left it in there, so we can take that out. The next couple of slides are from the presentation that I had with CPAC on Monday, because I wanted to talk about, no, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Let's look at the offsets. Sorry. All right, so here are our offsets for 27. If you look at 26, we had offsets of about 2.2 million, and we're budgeting 2.5, almost 2.6 million for 27. There are some changes on them. For example, athletics are up about 30,000 more that we're using out of athletics. Full-day kindergarten, we are finally using up the remaining balance in our full-day kindergarten. So after 27, that account will be wiped out to 0. Special education tuition, that's a new one, so that's a new revenue source. And school choice as well. One of the things that I'm trying to show here is that we are working very hard to identify new revenue sources wherever we can to help bring in more funding to the district. If you look at school choice, up until, as you all know, up through fiscal year 22, Reading was never in the school choice program for accepting. So the first year that we were in 23, there were 8 students. In 24, there was 25. Last year, there were 50, and this year, there's 79. And I think we're shooting for a goal of, I think around 100 for next year. And I think that's about the max where we think we're comfortable in terms of what we can handle. So again, that's another revenue source that, 4 years ago, the district didn't have. So that makes up for some of the other changes. The school lunch program, we thought we'd be able to charge off some of our paras who are working in the cafeterias at lunchtime, but the revenue did not support that for last year, so we eliminated that in terms of the 27 budget, because I don't see, I'm not sure whether or not we can support that in 27, so we've just removed it in terms of our plans for next year. The next page shows you the offsets by cost center. So this is what causes some of the difficulties into doing a year-over-year comparisons. So, for example, if you look at special ed, we're looking at offsetting $830,000 of our expenses with other funding sources. For this year's budget, it was $590,000. So that's a difference of $240,000 more, which is lowering what it looks like we're spending out of the general fund. It's the same thing in regular day. Last year, regular day, we charged off $800,000, and this year we are charging off $1 million to that. So, again, I'm just trying to reiterate, trying to do the year-over-year comparisons are not always true apples to apples, especially when I talked to the folks at CPAC Monday night. I was calling it more like an apples to a pear comparison because of some of the changes that were driving those numbers down. Grants are pretty much unchanged. Unfortunately, the METCO grant hasn't really moved all that much, and that continues to be a challenge. IDEA, Title I, and our entitlement grants are pretty much flat year over year, and that's what we are anticipating for 27 as well. Given all of the activities down in Washington, I don't think that at least the entitlement grants are in that much danger. How they get handled and how they get managed, that may change, but the grants themselves are going to, I think, continue to be there. So we got that. All right. Now,
Questions now?
on to what I did for CPAC the other night.
Phil, do we just pause for a question?
Yeah, Phil, sorry, I don't know if you, I know you're on a roll, so I don't mean
No,
to
go right ahead.
interrupt, but the school choice one jumps off the page, right? Is there an adjustment or accounting of that, and further on, there probably is, but what was the reserve or what was the balance? What are we expecting the income for next year to be? And are we going to spend it all down with that 900,000, or is there still going to be an expected balance carrying forward?
For 27, given the way the budget is built, that balance will be zero at the end of 27. There will be no carryover.
This is assuming how many additional school choice children for next year?
21.
20. Yeah, 2021.
21.
So this is assuming something we haven't voted on yet.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Is this essentially how we're making up the deficit between what FinCom approved for us and what it would cost otherwise?
It is one of the funding sources that we're using, yes.
Okay.
And it's the only one where we're really digging into what I will call the balance. The other ones we're still, we're using them the way we've always been using them in terms of leaving a balance at the end of the year. Obviously, the full-day kindergarten, is wiped out, but we anticipated that, would have been gone before this year.
Right.
So we've been able
Planned
to
for
stretch
that.
that out.
The only thing I'll share for people who maybe haven't been following as closely along with this too is just why that number looks so big is we've been using school choice funds on a one-year lag. So what we're proposing sort of in FY '27 is using the funds that we're receiving this year in addition to the funds that we receive next year on a monthly basis as well. So you're really using 2 years of, or potentially using 2 years of school choice funds within that one fiscal year. So just want to make sure to clarify a little bit of that for those who maybe haven't followed along.
So doesn't that create a cliff for us in
Yeah,
28?
that's where I was going to go with this immediately. It's exactly that, yep. It's not sustainable.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that we've done is we have budgeted in here about a little over $200,000 in salary savings, right? Which we think is a pretty conservative estimate of what things may come, which if that number comes in higher, which it has over the last couple of years, that would allow us to not have to be able to take as much sort of from school choice, right, in the way that we have proposed right here. With that said, to balance the budget, this felt like the best strategy in front of us to be able to do that.
Can I ask, so this is presuming we support school choice for another year, which I understand the betting on that. But
And then we
you're
fill all the
saying
slots.
that to go up to around 100 though would potentially be our max. Like you don't see it necessarily continuing to have room to add. So not only would we be spending it down, but it's not gonna grow.
The reason why we had 21 was because Olivia has already received 21 families reach out saying they are inquiring about school choice for next year and expressing interest. We've had a pretty significant demand over the last couple of years. We have self-imposed that cap. I think we could go higher. We've actually, if you look back the last couple of years, we have some room. We just didn't feel like that was the right thing for us to do in those moments too. So I don't think there's any reason we couldn't go higher if the committee were to want to go higher. There are some spots where we have some space.
I'm not hearing anybody question the revenue projection. I think it's the cliff that's the
Yeah.
concern. Because if we're using essentially 2 years of school choice revenue in 1 year, and we'd almost have to double year over year
Yes.
in '28 to offset that cliff, right?
Or at least 1.5 to get
Yeah,
somewhere
right, 'cause
closer.
it's not
Right.
as high, yeah,
But obviously
so-
it depends on where the budget is for the next year as well.
Right.
I would say, Sean, that's true if the projection of only about $200,000 in salary savings holds, right? Because if the salary savings, which look back the last couple of years, is significantly higher, then we obviously don't have to go as high on using, school choice funds that we receive in FY '27, if that makes sense.
Makes sense, it's just a bit of a high-stakes gamble.
It is what it is from a budget perspective right
Yeah,
now.
I mean-
Otherwise, we have to
Yeah.
fill the hole in it.
This is worst-case scenario, the way I look at it, And in now my 2 years that I've been here, we haven't had to utilize all of the amounts that we've had actually put into the budget in any given year to close out the books. So, is it a risk? Yes, like any risk, but it's the only risk I see in terms of this budget, in terms of the revenue side. So it's about a $400,000 problem, potentially, for '28.
Can I ask another question while we're on this set of the topics? Moving on to school lunch program, we're going to 0, according to what I'm seeing here, right? Recommended offset is from 273,000 to 0?
Yeah, we're not going to, we thought we'd be able to, again, charge off some of our para expenses to the food service program, but the revenue doesn't support it. So we didn't do it.
So our food services staff is still going to be paid out of the revolving fund, but we won't be able to have any other supports to pay
Correct.
for any other staff as a result of it? Okay,
And
Which just means they'll continue to be paid out of it,
out of the operating.
out of the operating
Right,
fund,
yeah.
Operating
the
budget.
food service will continue to be self-funding. Based on the results that we had a couple of years ago, it looked like that we had a pretty good profit margin, but it turns out, digging a little deeper into the numbers, it was more of an accounting problem where revenues got booked in the wrong year, which gave us a misleading result for one of the years.
Okay. One more question as I go through this. Earlier in the conversation, when we were going through the differences for school facilities, you mentioned it's because we're reducing the offset. But I'm not seeing that offset reduction. What am I missing? Like, it looks.
The offset budgeted for school facilities was $238,000 for this year.
We're
And
only-
then for '27, it's been reduced down to $100,000. And that's part of, we were going to charge off also part of the facilities expenses to the school lunch program.
So it's part of the school lunch program loss?
Yep. That's why if you go back and look at last year's, facilities looked strange because it looked like it was a reduction in its year over year because we had increased the amount of the offset. So now we're just bringing it back to what it has historically been.
Okay.
Dr. Corman?
Jeffrey Carn, Ridgewood. I'm looking at, on the offset question, specifically the regular day other expenses line, which shows a negative expense of $200-some thousand, because that school choice offset is so large that it overwhelms all the expenses that are being spent. And in fact, it looks like we're generating money in the other expenses category. It just hurts my brain to see it that way. And it seems like, I mean, sure, the school choice offset should be used to fund teachers as well as supplies, right? So it seems like maybe some of that offset should be like recategorized in how it's shown on the budget.
Historically, that offset has always been used to reduce down the supply line. We had some discussions, both Kate and I had some discussions as to whether or not we wanted to break it up for this year, but we decided just to leave it where it is for the time being, because that's where it's always been budgeted. Because what I'm concerned with overall, Dr. Corin, is that the bottom line is covered. So yes, it looks a little strange, and perhaps we could have done a little better job of splitting it out. You're right, taking part of that and moved it up to the salary line.
Thank you.
And maybe we'll do that for the final version.
Thanks, Phil. Appreciate it.
Okay, all right, so now, I wanted just to spend a couple of minutes on the special ed program, because as I said to them, I call it the rest of the story, and trying to make the folks in CPAC understand that the budget that we're talking about here is the general fund that doesn't cover all the revenue for what's coming in for the different programs, for the different cost centers, and that the percentages of where the funding is coming from tends to vary year over year, depending on what's going on. So, can you go, yeah, skip that one. So this is one that I put together that shows actual expenses for special ed by funding source. So purple was the general fund, gray was that grants? No, it's,
Yes.
Yeah, grants, and then the orange is circuit breaker. So if you look at it historically, you know, around 80, well, actually, we go to the next one, it shows it better. So this one just shows you the spend broken down by, on a percentage basis. So it's been historically somewhere in the 80 to 85% of special ed expenses are funded out of the general fund or the operating budget, and that the remainder comes out of both circuit breaker as well as revolving account or grants. So if we look at special ed for 27, if we start with the negative 3.3, if we adjust that to make it be budgeted the same way we budgeted 26, there's a couple of changes that we'd have to make. One, circuit breaker, we budgeted this year at 1.9 million, and it's going up to 2.6 million next year. And that's because of the increase in funding for special ed transportation, as well as some of the increasing costs of our out-of-district students. So that was about a $600,000 change. Then we had 3 positions that we had transferred out, so that's about $75,000. And I'm missing my third piece. Oh, it's not grants. Oh, and then it's the offsets. Again, we're offsetting an additional $240-odd thousand from other funding sources. So if you add that all up, we've lowered the 27 number as if we compare it to 26 by almost $1 million. So you'd have to, so what I'm trying to say is if we upped 27 by $1 million, that would be a fair comparison in terms of what's being funded out of the general fund. And that would actually show an increase. And if you go through the math and all the funding sources, even with the other reductions, special ed is up year over year, it's about 4%. You know, but part of my challenge here is that we don't, or haven't historically shown the budget by all of the funding sources by cost center. You know, we show the cost centers how they're being funded from the general fund, which is what, you know, town meeting votes on. And then we put down another section, all of our other funding sources, but we don't really identify well which cost center they're going to. And so I'm going to put that on my list of something that I want to change for 28, so it's clear for people to see it. And also, because we use offsets, you know, it's it's just funky the way it all works. And unless you're a numbers weenie like myself, you can get lost in it, and then you just want to run out of the room screaming, trying to understand what it is that the accountants are trying to do. So a lot of it's just the accounting magic that we're doing. But it doesn't, if you're not an accountant, it gets it's a little hard to follow. And so I'm trying to work on making that path a little easier to follow. So, again, this was part of my presentation to CPAC, and nobody's come in to tar and feather anyone yet, so I think it did go pretty well. And then finally, in terms of the budget, it's just the capital plan. A couple of things we had on here, the last couple of years, some items for food services. All those were paid for out of the food service monies. We got the new van for food service. We've gotten some new ovens and some other capital items through. So we've taken off any of the food service capital items. Obviously, we've got that big one called the new school, but that's, not showing up on here. And then one thing I forgot to mention a little bit earlier on in terms of new revenue sources, and the superintendent reminded me of this, we got one of the earmarks in the budget for $75,000 so we could buy a special ed handicap van. We're getting ready to place that order, probably early next week. And that, again, will then give us another advantage in terms of being able to make some of our programs perhaps a little more attractive to other districts. Because now we'll have a van that we can actually transport students around in, so.
I just got a real quick question on that, because a former town meeting member used to give me a hard time about our buses that we had and how the accessibility. Will this van have the capability of wheelchair ramping?
Yes. It will have the capability to carry one wheelchair student.
So to drop down and pick up appropriately?
Yeah, it will be out of the back.
Okay.
And so, and also still be able to carry, I think, another 6 students. If there's a wheelchair, if there's no wheelchair, I think we can carry 9, so.
And a little bit more context for those who are following along at home and maybe interested, we received a $75,000 earmark from the state, which was to purchase this type of van, specifically designated for our LIFT program, so our 18 to 22-year-old program. The goal of the program right now is obviously there's in-school curriculum and programming, but also a core part of the program is getting our students out into the community for job and community-based opportunities. Right now, there's a van that's shared between multiple sort of groups within the school, and that just creates challenges in getting our students out as consistently or as frequently maybe as we would like to. This opens the doors for this being sort of a core part of our program. Right now, our challenges are not finding community partners. We have some amazing community partners who are eager to support our students. We have a great partnership with Salem State and the Macy program, so this is really going to open doors for our current students. But we think also, again, as Phil was sharing, an opportunity for us to bring more students in from neighboring districts into the program. This is something that separates us that's really unique from what we see as some of the other districts that have this type of programming as well.
Other than that, the only other change is that technology projects, starting next year, we're going up from $150,000 to $250,000 in terms of capital being allocated, which would be very nice in order to keep our infrastructure up and going on the IT side. Other than that, I mean, as I said, it's steady as we go. Nothing major, no big, no changes.
Can I share one thing on the technology piece too? That's also we're talking about sort of, sustainability. We know how we've used end-of-year funds over the last couple of years for tech renewal. I think adding $100,000 for, on the capital plan for technology is going to allow us to be more creative with sort of how we're approaching sort of end-of-year funds and allocations and things like that. So it does free us up a little bit more than maybe where we have been over the last couple of years. Technically, we can't use these funds for the purchase of new devices, but it gives us some more flexibility within the technology budget to be able to make sure that we can purchase what we need at the end of the year and have some more flexibility sort of earlier on.
Devices are not considered capital items, haven't been for a long time. Well, that's all I have for 27 right now. Again, as superintendent said, if you have questions, please get them into Olivia. That way we can gather them all together and get some answers out to everybody. In that way, everyone will see the same answer, and I won't, have to have my answers corrected by 3 other people. So I want to make sure we get that done correctly. And we will make that change in terms of the offset for regular day. So we'll get rid of that, because I agree, it looked a little strange. So we'll fix that. And I do appreciate your comments from the going through for us. That was very helpful. Thank you.
So just an observation, not a comment on the budget itself, really, but I would say it's a level services budget, but we got a little bit of help from circuit breaker, and we are giving ourselves some help with sort of 2 years of school choice, and I get that there's an offset in the, conservative side on the, retirement savings and whatnot, but I sort of view this as the first year that the budget at the town level actually doesn't support level services. We had to have a few things, that we were able to sort of have break in our favor to be able to support level services, if we're being sort of honest with where we are. So, maybe just an observation for our friend from the FinCom and anybody from the Select Board who might be watching, that this is to me, a clear harbinger of what FY '28 looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing, if we talk about commentary, we sort of buried the lead in the fact that the special education accommodated cost is greatly decreased. And the only reason and only way that accommodated cost is greatly decreased is because of the work this team has done to keep our students in district and save a lot of out-of-district spend, right? So we've proven over time that is much more financially sustainable, and we have a pretty large drop. Historically, that goes up 4% every year, and this year it's going down 7-point-something%, right? So I think there's something there to talk about as well in terms of the work that this group has done over the last 5 years to manage and steward, and Sean, like we've talked about 5 years ago, invest to save, right? A lot of our investments have led to some of those savings. So I think that's something we should make sure we trumpet a little bit more than we have as we go through this. And I would also say that, it's even with this, we still have a free full-day kindergarten, or taxpayer-funded full-day kindergarten, whatever you want to say, from universal full-day kindergarten.
Say, yeah.
But B, we haven't touched the Special Education Reserve Fund yet.
Correct.
Right? Which is what, a little north of $1 million at this point in time, if I recall correctly.
No, it's
650.
650-odd thousand.
Okay, my recollection is wrong then, so I got to go back and see why I thought it was a higher number. But even so, worst case scenario, if we needed to, we still had something else to tap into next year. And that could be another bridge for one more year if we needed it to be, in '28 as necessary. I really don't like the fact that we're using all of our reserve, quote unquote, when it comes to school choice. So I'm a little nervous about that, but at the same time, I know it's been hard to fit the square peg in the round hole. So I appreciate all the work and effort to get where we are.
Any other questions for tonight or discussion? All right.
Can I just give a thank you to?
Yeah, of
behind
course.
the scenes? You saw Phil tonight, but it's also Kate Finnegan behind on the scenes, just does incredible work. The two is the team, our assistant business manager, just together to put all this work in to get us into a good spot. So huge thanks to Kate as well. Even though she's not here, she's definitely, her work's reflected here. So thanks.
And also to Olivia for actually putting the whole budget book together, because I can't do that to save my life.
She is a wizard. Okay, so we will revisit this in 2 weeks and then again in 3 weeks, but we'll call it there for tonight. So let's move to old business and FY '27 fees, particularly around the area of transportation. Dr. Reynolds, Jesse, or Phil, who
Yeah,
wants to-
so I think just to revisit the conversation, last school committee meeting, we had recommended an increase of $25 for one rider. That brought the fee up to $500. An increase of $50 for two riders. That would bring it up to $900. And then keeping the three-rider cap at $1,200. The committee had asked for a little bit more information about sort of ridership breakdown by level, and then also breakdown by how many families had 1, 2, or 3 riders as well. So that information is all in the packet. So we wanted to revisit the conversation tonight, seeking vote and approval, or before that, any discussion or around those, the recommendation.
Why don't we, we'll just start with a motion.
Move to approve the transportation fee rates for fiscal year '27.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions or discussion? I'll just say, I mean, you know, if we were starting over, my preference would be to have a first rider rate and then a rate per additional rider, you know, with some cap on it, versus having the third rider be $300, but for 6 families, I'm not that anxious about changing it either, so I'm good for tonight.
Yeah,
It's
I really
$600.
appreciate getting those numbers
Yeah.
because initially, the 1,200 just like did not sit well with me, but I'm not interested in overtaxing 6 families in the district either, so.
For $600 in revenue.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, anything else? Sarah, I see you shaking your head no. All right, so we'll go to the vote. Sarah, I'll start with you. Can't hear you if you're talking. Still can't hear you.
I can see her mouthing the
You
word
could see her
yes.
mouth.
She mouthed yes.
Can you give us a thumbs up so we can, there we go. Sarah's a yes. Erin?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
And Laura?
Yes.
And Sean, yes. Okay, thanks, Phil. I think you're off the hook.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Let's move to the school calendar. Dr. Milczewski, any commentary on this one?
Great. So in your packet, you'll see some of the follow-ups from questions that were recommendations that were proposed at the January 8th meeting. So I think just the biggest one to flag is just, actually I'll flag 2. One, Election Day, did discuss that at length with Laura Gem again. Laura's stance, I think, is similar to ours. Laura believes that we can do things safely and efficiently every year besides a presidential election. So just to flag that first, so that's her perspective. I agree. Second thing is we had a lot of conversations internally and with the union around the start date. It is the recommendation of the union and also therefore our administration just to continue with what's in the teachers union contract, which is starting no earlier than 1 week before Labor Day. So therefore, you'll see some of the other pieces that were brought up during the January 8th meeting, and then also the corresponding draft calendar as well.
Let's start with the motion, yeah.
Move to approve updates to the 2026, 2027 school calendar.
Before we take that, have we approved anything yet, or did we table it last time?
We tabled it, so you're going
I
to have
think
to
we
move to
tabled it.
approve.
So we'll just take out the word updates. You want to offer a
Yep,
new
move
motion?
to approve the 2026, 2027 school calendar.
Thank you. Second?
Thank you.
Seconded by Aaron. Any discussion? I'll just say I appreciate you taking all that back. I definitely didn't realize that the language in the contract was tied to Labor Day. I thought it was tied to a date on the calendar, so makes perfect sense. So I think, I would say next time we have a union negotiation, might be worth thinking about whether we want more flexibility there, but for now, I'm good with this, so. Okay, is there any further discussion?
Clarifying question.
Please.
As a member of the policy subcommittee, I assume we will want to have that conversation soon so that anything can be incorporated into the calendar? Is that accurate?
The conversation around start date or the conversation around the religious holiday?
Religious holidays
Yes.
was getting bumped down to the policy subcommittee, correct? That's how I read it. So, which is good. I think it's something that should be revisited. But means we have to.
That was not in my update from earlier today, so I'll redo my update from earlier today. We have received feedback from the district on the set of policies that I sent them before. This was not one of them, and we can add to it. I now need to get legal review of those policies, and then we can have a series of meetings through January, February, March.
Okay.
Expect a request.
All right. You and me.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, let's move to the vote. Sarah, I'll start with you. I'm seeing a thumbs up, so we'll take that as a yes. I hope that's legal and valid. Aaron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And Sean, yes. Okay. All right, so that brings us to our final order of business, I believe, which is the superintendent, hopefully some votes we can take tonight. So hopefully everyone had a chance to read the memo. I apologize that it was a late update. We've been trying to sort of work this through with MASC in real time. And this has gotten even stickier, I would say, since we got this, since the memo that was included in the packet. MASC's initial proposal for the timeline had us finishing the search and making an offer in the May 18th to 22nd timeframe, which we think is probably a non-starter. It's just too late. You know, it's just, we'd be behind every other district that's doing a search. You know, you're betting on candidates being willing to walk away from their current district, you know, 30 days before, just over 30 days before the start of the school year. It's just a really tough, you know, and even contractually, we know many candidates will have 60 or 90-day notification periods. And so, you know, we may offer somebody who legally can't start until well into July or even August. And so we think that's sort of a non-starter. The catch is that MASC is not able to commit to supporting a timeline that is faster or as fast as we'd want to go. I think as fast as we'd want to go would have us completing the search and being in a position to make an offer prior to the election. No seats are guaranteed, and we don't want to find ourselves in a position where we have, you know, some people participating in the interviews and then other people having to decide who to make an offer to. So I really think our bogey is prior to the upcoming election. So, you know, we've been going back and forth with Alicia Mallon at the MASC. I can't remember if I mentioned this, but Dorothy Presser is retired from MASC, so we have both a new field rep and a person who would be supporting the search in Alicia Mallon. You know, she's got a great background, has served on multiple school committees, you know, knows all the stuff, but just from an availability perspective, has another search that's in line in front of us and can't commit to the aggressive timeline that we would want to host here. So we have a few options. One is we could move forward with MASC, take as much help as we can get and sort of fill in the gaps with, you know, our time, my time, Michelle, Olivia, you know, Dr. Milczewski and others from the district. That's certainly one path forward. Another path forward is that we opt not to contract with MASC. There is a set of free services they will provide to us as a result of us being MASC members that wouldn't require us to spend $11,000 plus and do, you know, kind of have them formally lead our search. And again, we would have to lean into, we being the district collectively and the school committee collectively, would have to lean into taking on some of the things that MASC might otherwise do for us.
Can you elaborate?
I will in just a minute. Let me run through the options generally, and then I'll talk about some of the considerations, I think. So that's one option. A third option would be we could revisit working with NESDEC. I don't know at this point whether they could commit to supporting the timeline that we want. And, you know, they were, I think, about $4,000 more expensive than MASC for generally the same scope. And then, was there a fourth option? Maybe it was just the three options.
What about a fourth option of asking Dorothy to come off the bench for a couple months?
That is interesting. It's an option.
It's an ask, whether she can say no,
Yeah, it's an, no, for sure it's an option. Maybe
even if it means it's 13 or 15,000 instead of
Yeah.
11,000. It's still probably going to be cheaper than NESDEC, if I recall what NESDEC was going to charge us last
NESDEC
time.
was around 15 and change, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's an option as well. So I'll lay out some of the considerations and then, you know, open it up for discussion here. I think candidly, some of MASC's approaches and NESDEC's approaches for that matter are a little bit dated. Things like creating a full color brochure that gets physically mailed to a list of folks in their contact book doesn't make a ton of sense to me. We could have, I'm going to volunteer him, and we hope he's okay with that. I suspect we could get Chris Haley to build us a website, you know, this weekend that would be sort of the community profile, you know, the modern version of the community profile. I don't know if maybe he's watching, but probably not. But I'm sure this will get back to him.
If I get a text here.
And if Chris can't do it, I'm fairly confident with Squarespace, we could figure it out. So the point is, there are some things that we could modernize that I almost would prefer to sort of, you know, insource, if you will. So that's, you know, that's one thing to think about. Another thing to think about is there are some things in the timeline that, that's here in the packet that I think we probably could opt to forego. For instance, the online survey. I don't know that it added a ton for us last time. I think the focus groups are more important. The survey has quite a tail to it in terms of you got to develop it and approve it and get it fielded and wait for the results, and then there's some analysis, and then you have to review it. So, I think there are some things that we could take out of the process that probably wouldn't impact our results meaningfully. So that's another consideration. Tom, I like your idea of, thinking about Dorothy. Another thing that came up is I asked Colby, our legal team, our counsel, to take a look at the contract. And one of the things that MASC's contract explicitly calls out is they sort of disclaim any responsibility for legal compliance. And it's our responsibility to make sure that our search is fully compliant legally, which, I understand why that's their approach to it, but it puts us in a position where we'd be leaning on Colby and her team. So that's another option, is we could lean on Colby and her team to support some of the things that we otherwise would get supported by MASC, particularly around the orientation for the screening committee to make sure that, they ask questions that are above board and all that sort of thing. So there are, I think there's certainly a path to us putting this together in a way that leans on the free support that we can get MASC, allows us to insource a lot of things that we probably, would be interested in modernizing anyway, and allows us to move on the timeline that we probably need to move on, which really has us posted in February, and closing the posting by the end of February is probably the timeline we need to be on. So I'll pause there, and open it up for any questions or thoughts. There are some things in the list of 5 bullets that I have here that I would like to get a vote on this evening, independent of which path we take, but let's talk about the path forward first.
So just to clarify,
Yeah.
the services are not offered à la carte. You either hire them as a package or
So,
don't.
yeah, so they have two options. One is they run your search, right? And there's still lots of stuff that the district has to do. We have to provide a lot of information. We obviously have to provide places to hold focus groups and all those sorts of things. But they do a lot of the scheduling, a lot of the outreach to candidates, a lot of the coordination of calendars, a lot of that sort of stuff. They do production of any advertising materials you might do, right? So they're doing a lot of things for you in that case.
Okay.
There's another version, which is they provide us with what they call no-fee technical services, or technical assistance, where they do things like posting the role on the MASC website, distributing our vacancy to MASC equivalents in other states, distributing our search materials to their recruitment database. We would pay postage costs in that case, so we'd have to figure out what that looks like if we're doing more of a digital recruitment package. They can provide us with graphic design assistance. They can help us with recommendations for any paid advertising we might want to do. They'll actually conduct the orientation of the screening committee, which is an important one, right? Because there's some kind of key legal things that you need to check off there. They can help us develop questions for candidates at various stages. So there are lots of things that they will do for us because we are members of MASC that are independent or separate from the contracted package.
Okay.
Now, again, whether or not they can sort of fully support all that on the timeline that we're going to be
Right.
looking for, maybe in question, but
But other than me, everyone on the committee has been through this process.
4 of us.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Sarah came in the year after, right? Yeah.
Not only has that, but Aaron and I were on the screening committee.
Okay.
I have all the materials,
Yeah.
every single one of the materials from the last time we did this.
The questions. and
I
all
have
that.
the questions, I have
So it
everything.
maybe,
I have everything from
seems like
that.
maybe some of the services, if you're saying you want to modernize it anyway, that some of those services
I have the old flyer,
necessary.
right, which we could take and adjust,
Digitize, yeah.
digitize appropriately. I mean, I have it all.
And, in talking to Dr. Milichewski, Olivia is certainly capable and available to support us administratively. Michelle is an HR guru, as we know, and is available and interested, available and willing to support, some of the sort of HR strategies, stuff associated with this. So I have every confidence that we could do it, we could do it with MASC support versus having a vendor do it for us. But it's a big decision, so.
I personally think the top priority is getting the best possible candidate who we can for the district. And if that means putting in more legwork, then I'll put in more legwork. But I'm not comfortable having a stretched out timeline and losing candidates for that. I think that we need to capitalize on the fact that 4 of us are familiar, very familiar with the process. I think there's a lot of published materials now between our community report, between what, you know, the schools put together. Like, I think there's a lot that, you know, probably with Olivia's help, we could string together. I agree. I don't think we need to necessarily be using snail mail. So my vote would be to speed things up, even if it means taking on more.
I agree.
I have found that there's so much interest from everybody who I come in contact with, and I'm sure everybody's the same. We could come up with a little cheat sheet and say, here you go. If you know of anybody who, you know, if you know of people, because everybody has a connection, and this is our website, this is, you know, just to kind of lead them to the right place too, is another way.
The one thing I will say is, you know, while the mailing, I agree, is a little out of date, they do have a pretty exhaustive network. Now, it sounds like we can connect into most of that with the technical services, so I'm a fan of that. I do think as well, though, that I wanted, so I'm on the same page with Aaron. I want to go as fast as we can. I agree with your timing that it has to be before the election, 100% on that same page. We have most of the materials. The one thing I think that, like Dorothy did for us, that we're going to have to figure out who does, and it might even be that we have to designate our own chair of the search committee, because that's going to be a big part of it. We did not do that last time, somewhat on purpose, because there was some internal political struggle at the time, which we don't really have right now. You know, that Dorothy and Tom, you can probably speak to it, really worked a lot with the candidates behind the scenes, right? In terms of, okay, well, maybe not, so tell me. But the perception we had was that she would reach the candidates and have them, okay, I need you to coordinate this, I need you to do this, this is the interview schedules that you can sign up for, this is the time you're going to be here, this is what you should expect. That the chair, presumably the search committee, is going to have to do if we decide to not contract with somebody. Dorothy also took all the minutes for the executive sessions and the regular sessions, and she did the submissions of those. So if we want to make sure we have Olivia or somebody else available, that would probably offload something from the chair from a logistics perspective, or because you can't really record the executive sessions, right? So that's just something to be aware of as we go through it. But everything, I think we can do most of this ourselves and do most of it really quickly ourselves. I'm actually somewhat saying I'm not even sure we need a focus group. I think we know pretty well where we are as a district. There might be maybe a smaller set, maybe we want 1 or 2, but I don't really, maybe I'm biased, and I'm sure I am, because I'm so connected into this group as it is right now. But I feel like we're in such a good order from the district perspective that we're not reorienting like we were 5 years ago. That last year, 5 years ago, was very much a, you know, this district needs to fundamentally do a 180 and shift where it's going and its focus. We're not in that space right now. So my perception is that the focus groups are going to be like, yeah, everything's going great, right? And so maybe my perception is not right, but I just have a little bit of a, let's even tighten that up if we can.
I want to push back on that a little bit.
Yep, please do.
I think there are 2 things that have to be true, or, you know, 2 things that are like my top 2 objectives. One is get the best candidates we can applying for this role, right? 2 is make sure that we have buy-in from all the right stakeholder groups on the person we select ultimately.
I agree.
And I think the focus groups help with that quite a bit. I think the focus groups help make sure that people feel like they were heard, their priorities were reflected. We can tailor and tweak the questions that we ask, you know, both in the screening committee and at the, you know, at the final interview phase, to ensure that those things are addressed. I think that's really helpful from a stakeholder buy-in perspective. I agree with you, we probably could slim it down. I literally just emulated the ones that we had scheduled last time, which, you know, some of them were pretty lightly attended, if I remember correctly.
I was gonna say,
So we probably
yeah.
could do some collapsing of those, but you know, I think we'd still, and I also know, there's a lot of staff that want to be involved and want to be heard, and there's not going to be enough seats for them all, right? So I think having some focus groups for certain groups in particular, I think is still pretty important, and probably not that difficult to schedule.
Yeah, I think if we collapsed any, we could probably condense some of the parent groups, because
Yeah.
I would love for hundreds of people to chime in and tell us what really matters to them, but even 5 years ago, when we were in an incredibly different place, those weren't well attended.
Yeah.
So I do think there will be interest in being on the screening committee, and, we'll have to think carefully about that makeup and how to do it in a fair and balanced way, but I agree, like, that the staff need to have the focus groups for sure, and at least some that are open to community and parents. And I can't remember, did students show up to the student? I don't really remember. I don't remember that
I
one.
don't remember. I might have the notes from those two. I can go back and check that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Also,
we
like,
could- we could
town
co-
staff, if we're gonna have some representative town staff on the screening committee, how many town staff do we think have strong opinions for a focus group?
Yeah, I
I don't know.
don't,
I'm not trying to minimize,
No,
but
I-
they don't, have as much.
I tried to figure out how
Yeah.
well attended these were, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it anywhere in my
Yeah.
email history or anything like that. So I'm certainly open to collapsing, some of these. We could, invite town staff to the open community forum that probably will be, lightly attended. We could potentially combine students, with that group as well. I think there's a few things we could do here to slim that down. I'm not that worried about these. These are 30-minute Zooms at the end of the day, so if we have one too many, it's probably not the end of the world, but
Yeah, it's just a matter of making sure we can get them scheduled quickly.
Yeah.
Right. They, if I recall correctly, they were really only used for one thing, and that was the brochure,
yeah.
in the grand scheme of things. They weren't used for much more than the brochure in terms of how we were painting the town and the district and what it was and what we were looking for. It was the what we were looking for portion of the brochure that they were used for,
Yeah, that's fair.
in a very almost word cloudy way.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess we really want the input, but we don't want it to hinder our timeline that we have to get all these scheduled either. But it looks like we could still do it over the next few weeks, basically, over the next,
I think that would have to be the target, is
Yeah.
to do them all no later than the week of the 19th.
The online submission had 164 responses
For the survey?
for the survey.
back then.
And everybody was,
I was gonna say, when a heck of a lot more than 164 people had opinions.
Yeah. All right, so what I'm hearing is, it's worth reaching out to Dorothy. We'll do a Hail Mary and see if she's available. It'd be great to have somebody who can run point, who's done this before, if she's available and can meet our timeline and is interested, since she retired like 2 weeks ago. She may not be ready to jump back in just yet. But, we can kick the tires there.
It's her last hurrah.
Yeah.
I like
something-
how
something
pleasant
like
we
that.
are.
Yeah.
Sweeten it
I mean,
up.
I emailed her.
We're more pleasant than when she was last here. She had to come before that to teach me, but teach us how to be cordial in meetings.
Great job, Dorothy. She succeeded. I think I reached out to her our meeting was on the 18th in December. I think I reached out to her the morning of the 19th, and it was the email, I was already getting emails saying, I've retired as of the end of December.
Oh,
So
gosh.
an automatic
Okay.
bounce back, so.
All right.
So she's
Don't hold our
very
breath on
freshly
that one.
retired, so I'm not gonna hold my breath, but it's worth kicking the tires on that. But otherwise, I'm hearing generally we're comfortable kind of running the show, and we'll lean on MASC's technical assistance where we can. Okay, so that's good. The other question would be, and this is one of the things that Alicia from MASC was asking me, is, do we intend to sort of have one person run point, or do we want to create a subcommittee? We historically have not created a lot of subcommittees. I think I mentioned in the memo, I'm happy to be the sacrificial lamb here, but I don't want to assume that I am either. So if anybody is interested in playing an outsized role in this and wants to either subsume me or join me, you're welcome to do so. But otherwise, I'll raise my hand, I guess is what I'm saying, to kind of take responsibility here. And then, we'll just use our meetings to update everyone and everything that's going on. And I won't rule out that we may want to have an emergency meeting here or there where we, if we need approval for something, or, I just want opinions, on something, and I can't violate OML, but, generally speaking, we'll try to keep all that in our existing meetings as much as possible.
I mean, I think in your role and chair, I think it makes perfect sense for you to logically play that role. Chuck did that as well, as you noted before. I think the question you're going to have to ask yourself is, does that mean you want to be on the screening committee too? Or is this just the coordination, right? And so I don't think you have to answer right now. I don't think it's neither here nor there, but it would be a lot to do both.
Yeah.
So, especially if you're going to be, okay, the committee has said we want to talk to these 5 people, and okay, now I got to reach out to those 5 people to coordinate. You can if 2 of us are on the screening committee, right?
Yeah.
You'd be the third to be in the know to a degree. So it still doesn't violate OML at that
Right.
point in time, but something to think about for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've already thought about it, as you might imagine. If any 2 of you are interested and willing to be on the screening committee, I'd be happy to just play the sort of coordination role. If there's a gap and we need a second person, then I'll do that as well. So, okay, so the timeline as you see it is generally representative. We need to pull it in by about a week to get in front of I think it's about a week to get in front of the
2
election.
weeks.
So
2 weeks.
is it, or is it, it's a week and a
Goes
half
to-
maybe?
More than,
Yeah,
Goes out to middle of April, April
Goes-
16th, so.
okay, so yeah, and the election's on the 6th or 7th? 7th?
7.
Yeah, so we've got to pull it in by 10 days, give or take, and probably vote on Monday night before the election would be my guess. So that'll be,
Unless you can pull it into end of
Yeah, let's
March or
do
the
it.
week before. Try and
yeah,
do it
with,
before.
yeah, so I'll take a run at adjusting the calendar here, knowing that we want to, I think we have agreement, we want to get this done before the election. Can we talk about the screening committee? And then if folks are interested, it actually would be helpful to know if you have availability constraints, anybody who wants to be on the screening committee as I refine this calendar. So what's suggested here in the packet is where we landed last time. It's not what we initially proposed, it's where we landed on the actual screening committee that we ended up constituting. 2 school committee members, 1 central office staff member, 1 building principal, 5 staff members, including at least 1 from each level, 5 parents, ensuring that we have representation from each level, as well as CPAC and METCO, town manager or designee, and then either the police chief, one of the SROs, or a designee from the police department. That was that was the screening committee makeup the last time around, and I think it was a good balance. I think it was probably the right one, but I'm open to suggestions or revisions.
The one thing I've heard from our central office staff is a suggestion for a second principal. Tom, do you know if that still holds, and if we have a second principal that's interested?
Definitely more than
Yeah.
1 principal interested,
Okay.
yeah.
That would get it to an odd number as well. Right now it's 20. Being at an odd number is usually good in case there's a tiebreaker of some sort.
Where do you get 16?
16, but yeah, it's still
All
an
right,
even number.
16,
Yeah,
okay,
fair
17,
point.
yeah. So my count's wrong, but my,
I would be fine with that. I think I would just want to factor it in to the 5 staff so that there's, again, sort of like balance from,
Say
so
more.
we have to be careful that we don't go like, oh, now we're 7 staff and now, no, because then parents are going to have the same problem, right? So we got to just have to,
Yeah,
I just meant if, looking holistically at the 5 staff and the 2 principals, having full representation and not having 3 from Coolidge.
I see.
You know what I
see
mean? Like,
oh, yeah,
if we
yeah,
have,
sure.
like, if it's Sarah Marchant, then
Yeah,
maybe,
fair.
we're not picking a teacher from,
Yeah, so that's fair. We'll have that as a.
That's all I'm
have that as a
thinking.
consideration
Not
as we.
numbers, but look at like
Yes.
distribution across the,
Yes.
across the school.
Yeah.
You're
Sorry, I
trying to
wasn't
get maximum
articulating that.
representation of sort of all categories,
yes.
right? Yeah, totally makes
I
sense.
think however, we're going to get a lot of interest.
Yes, yeah.
So and some people can check off more than one box, and that,
We could already fill this from people who proactively reached out.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Several people
So-
reached out to me as well,
Yeah.
but I would be willing to do it again. I enjoyed it, as intense as it was, but I have some travel constraints, so I don't want to be a problem in that regard. So it would depend on what the dates ultimately end up being.
So let's gather everybody's interest and then we'll look at availability and go from there.
Can I mention
Yeah.
one more thing,
Go,
too?
please.
Bob LaLasher has expressed an interest in being on the search committee. He was on Tom's search committee, and I like the idea that this person needs to really be budget-focused, and I always felt like Bob was very budget-focused, too, so I know we have town manager or designee on there, so I just wanted to kind of put that out there. I think he would be a good addition.
Okay. What about others? Interest in pending scheduling availability?
I too would be willing to do it again if people wanted me to do it again. I do have some small travel, but we have remote meeting opportunities, so nothing that I think is blocking anything as it stands right now. I could be in San Francisco tomorrow for all I know, but at the same time, I can join a call and tell them I'm blocking a certain period of time if I need to, so whatever needs to be done, as long as we can do it virtually as well, which we can according to our laws, so.
I would definitely be willing to participate. Yeah, I'm not, if there's people who are, really gung-ho, and I don't want to take someone's spot, so to speak, but I'm absolutely willing to be part of the search committee.
Okay. Availability is maybe going to be the determining factor here, because, so,
Yeah, I
so
mean-
it's not,
I'll be around.
yeah, I hear you. Sarah, I don't know if we can get you off of mute. You could start with a thumbs up or thumbs down. We cannot hear you. Did I? Oh,
Thumbs
you know
down.
what? The volume got turned down. Sorry, that's my fault.
Can you sign?
I'm not sure
The
how
whole
I.
thing, the
Yes,
whole
we can
system
hear you
reset
now.
halfway through,
Oh,
so for some
okay.
reason.
Yeah. I was trying to have a shorter meeting. I figured if I cut out 16% of the members, we'd get out of here earlier.
No, my schedule is a nightmare as much as I would like to participate.
Okay.
So if other people have more flexibility and are able, that would be great.
And how are you feeling with?
If I would love to be on it, but I'm realistic, and if I'm happy with any of the three of you to be on it, and if something happens and we need me to step in, I'd be happy to, but I'm good with any of the
You
three.
got a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I will gracefully bow out then and play the sort of coordinator role. And then Aaron, Tom, and Laura, when I get a sort of refreshed view of the calendar here, we'll just kind of have everybody look at calendars and, see what availability looks like and go from there. So, okay. So why don't we just, for belt and suspenders, why don't we take a vote to approve the screening committee with the addition of another building principal? But otherwise as represented in the packet. So maybe you could just say so moved.
Do you have, so moved. Do you have all your answers to all the questions that you wanted to get answers from?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think
Seconded.
we have a path on sort of how we're gonna run the process. We'll check in with Dorothy, but otherwise probably leading it ourselves with MASC support from the technical assistance, sort of no fee stuff. I'll play point with MASC so we can keep things moving. Search process timeline, we're gonna revise. I don't know that the timeline formally requires approval, but we'll bring it back next time for a formal vote anyway. And then screening committee makeup, I do want to vote on that, and then we'll close out with focus groups, and we'll be good. We'll be good. All right, so,
I just have one thought on that too. So I'm looking at that list of like one building principal and 5 staff. And I think what's interesting is that, what doesn't call out specifically like a central office rep, like one of our assistant superintendents, or it doesn't call it like a coordinator or director.
Actually, we
but it
did
does-
have that last time. That's a good point.
So I don't know if they fold into staff members.
No, they didn't.
when you say
It's
when
that
we say
one
central
central
office
office
staff.
staff.
CO staff member.
Yeah,
Yeah,
central
Okay,
COs.
so it's,
Yeah.
okay, so CO staff, I was assuming, so that's a CO, like a.
That's
assistant
Jen or Sarah
superintendent,
or
okay.
Michelle or somebody else.
So like a director or a coordinator would fall under, because like in my role, I work really closely with our directors as well. So that would fall under a staff member, correct?
Yeah, because last time the 5 staff, it wasn't like all teachers.
I think
Like,
we
it
go
was,
with,
like-
are they sort of on, RTA para contract, or are they, on individual contracts as like central office admin?
Okay, so you're
Is that how we
saying,
think
so
about
in-
it?
in this model, someone who's say a director of.
So
food-
Aaron would fit
Aaron
CO
Burchell.
staff model.
Where would she fit?
CO staff member.
She would be CO staff, okay,
Oh,
got it.
see, I would think that she would be part of the 5 staff members.
That's,
Historically,
Yeah.
now, however, ultimately what happened, I'll just, a little bit behind the scenes curtains, when all the applicants came in last time as we were going through it,
I remember your spreadsheet.
right? We had a list of who they are and what roles they filled.
Yep.
And because sometimes people felt multiple roles. We had people who were staff and parents at the same time. We had, so we had to, okay, well, this fills the staff position, but this excludes that person. We want them to fill it, so, okay, we're going to put them in a parent role in this particular case. So, we could play with that. And Sean, it's probably in your role with consultation with Carla about making sure that that is as fairly populated as possible.
so my only thought on that is do we like to have the one CO staff member and one building, or 2 building principals, or is it better to have 3 non-unit leaders to give more flexibility to the screening committee if they would prefer, or whoever's selecting, to choose a director, assistant superintendent, a principal, instead of an assistant superintendent and 2 principals? I think that would,
I think that's fair. I do think that there's value in having at least a couple of direct reports to the superintendent, which you get with the building principals, but not with every central office staff member. So maybe with that caveat that it's, 3 central office staff members plus building principals, including 2 direct of the superintendent, right? Because then you could have theoretically a building principal and an assistant superintendent.
You could theoretically add an assistant principal to that then, if that's the
Yeah.
case too,
Yeah.
right? Depending on how the pool comes together. But, so that gives you essentially, you're saying 3 people, right? 2 of those 3 must be direct reports to the superintendent at minimum.
yeah.
But it's possible you could make 3 of 3 direct reports to the superintendent.
And you're talking about with that one CO staff member and the one building principal adding an additional, that could toggle between either of them.
Those 2 lines collapse
Yeah.
into 3 people total, with at least 2 of them being direct reports to the superintendent.
I
Correct.
think that's helpful too, because another role which I'll mention is a Metco director, which reports to me,
Yeah.
right? But where would you fit in this structure? So I think that, just to try to think as inclusively as possible, I think give yourself a little bit more, this language, give yourself a little bit more flexibility than maybe the proposed language on the paper.
Yep, that's fair.
That's a good point, because 5 years ago,
We didn't have one at that point in time.
We had 1 person, right? We had
And we
one.
were actually recruiting Curtis at that point in time.
We were.
As well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a really good point.
All right, so the adjustment here would say 2 school committee members, 3 central office plus non-unit leaders, at least 2 of which are directs to the superintendent. 5 staff members, including 1 from each level, at least 1 from each level. 5 parents, including representation, et cetera, et cetera. Town manager or designee, and police chief SRO or designee. That's the revised makeup. Anything else on that?
So that gives us 17, yeah.
The only thing I would say, if you're getting bombarded with requests, and inevitably people are gonna be upset they weren't chosen, is just to remind people that this is not just to, but this is to get to the finalists. It's not to choose the next superintendent. And then all the finalists will have, time with various cohorts, and all of that will be public at that point, and people can lobby all 6 of us, which they will. So I don't want anyone to feel like
They're left out.
they're left out, or they're not gonna have not gonna be heard, because they didn't get picked for the screening committee. Like,
Yeah.
it's wonderful that there's interest, but
Was Chuck the bad guy last time, or did he let Dorothy do it?
No, I mean, Chuck and I collectively were
Okay.
the bad guys last time. But we actually did not have a problem so much in terms of how many people, we didn't have to turn away a lot of people.
Yeah, okay.
So
interesting.
it wasn't a massive, like I said, we were actually like, well, we had more staff, but
Right.
one of those staff happened to be a parent, so we were able to put that staff person into the parent list.
Right.
We didn't have 15 staff that we had to say no to.
Yep.
And once people see the time commitment,
That's part of the
They
problem
may-
as well. People say something, they're like, oh, I can't do that many meetings in that short a period of time. And there's a lot of self-selection that happens.
Trust the process. This process always works. I always feel like these are good.
Can I say one other thing, but it's not on the committee? You wrote not all committees visit the finalist districts. I found that experience like significantly helpful, like very, very enlightening. So I hope that we can make that work, even if we do, I mean, last time we had to do it virtually, but that was very efficient because we didn't have to like drive to, another place for a day and who knows?
Yep.
Not everyone's within driving distance anyway, so,
100% agree with everything.
but
Yep. No,
those were great.
I think,
Yeah.
I think in 2025, defaulting to virtual for that makes
Yeah.
all the sense in the world. I think we could probably,
2026.
2026, wow. I think it made all the sense last year, it still makes sense this year. I think also, I mean, potentially we could do it the same weeks as we do the candidate visits to the district. So there's,
Tighten up timelines, yeah.
we can certainly, we certainly can accelerate the timeline and make it fit. Carla and I were talking about this earlier, and I totally agree. I think that was arguably determinative for me last time.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
And we have to carve out more time.
yeah.
So that I think that's a way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so maybe we already have a motion.
We have a motion, we have
So
a
it's-
second by
We have
Tom.
a second by
Yep.
Tom. It's, sort of.
As amended now.
As amended.
As amended.
It's a
Yep.
friendly amendment, we'll take it.
Friendly amendment, so friendly. All right, any further discussion on the makeup of the screening committee? All right, let's go to a vote. Sarah?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And Sean, yes, thank you. Okay. All right, focus groups, I think we'll close out here. Again, this is, I'm confident, not something we need to vote on the specific makeup of these. So I'm happy to just sort of take everybody's guidance that there are some opportunities to collapse these. Are we in agreement that this is still, maybe we're not in agreement to our earlier conversation where we literally were not agreeing. But what's the consensus of the committee on whether we want to, try to hold these, even if it's a smaller number than we did last time around?
I'd love to use SAC for the students,
Okay?
right? That's part of their role is to consult with us, and this
Okay.
is one of the most important things they can consult with us on. Maybe if others want to attend, maybe let's set up a SAC meeting and say that's the agenda item,
Yeah. That's a
right?
good idea.
And then, but the rest, I think, let's try to collapse it down to 2 or 3 more if possible.
Okay.
And I guess the question for you to figure out is what question are you asking them? And how are you
I'm
recording
hoping
it?
you've got the questions from the last time around.
Focus groups.
If one of us can find them, I think we can track those down. It's really a facilitated, what are you looking for? What are your priorities in the next superintendent? What qualities are you looking for?
Yeah.
Is there anything about the current superintendent you specifically want to emulate? Is there anything you want to see change in the district going forward? It's that kind of sort of facilitated discussion. So even if we can't find the specific questions from last time, I think we can pull that together pretty credibly.
If we're not doing a survey, are you comfortable with saying people can email you Is
Yeah.
it gonna open the floodgates?
Yeah,
to
I mean,
email?
I
I'm
think
not sure,
I think
but-
we will have an open community forum too. So, I mean, that's the other option is, you know, if folks want to weigh in, there's going to be a, you know, a virtual session for people to join. But if people want to email, that's fine too. One of the things that I'll figure out here in the next day or two, we should probably set up like an inbox. If we're going to be running some of this ourselves, we'll set up a, you know, an inbox for the purposes of this that can collect community input and then ultimately candidate submissions and things like that. So, it doesn't have to be my inbox, but yes, we will make something available for folks to reach out who can't participate in the forum and aren't
Okay.
selected for a screening committee.
Is there a reason why we don't just use our deal,
Use what?
our deal, our distribution list? So we all just see the feedback? That in addition to the site visit, in terms of the stream of feedback we had coming in before the selection, I think was useful as well.
Yeah.
Do we have to publish them all then? Like, are people gonna hold back if,
We didn't have to last time, right? We don't have to publish anything that's private or personal necessarily. We don't have to. We don't have to publish anything.
We don't have to post anything.
I just want people to be honest and not worry about, I agree, it's helpful if we can all see it, so we're all hearing the same messaging. But
Yeah, I
want
don't.
people to hold back their,
I'm not inclined to publish it. I mean, even if we set up a separate inbox, it would be subject to public records, so if somebody wants to access it, they can. You know, subject to things that can be redacted and all that sort of stuff, but, you know, if somebody's just expressing an opinion on candidates, like that would be subject to public records, so. Yeah, let me think through, we'll think through that, and see if there's any downsides we're not thinking of, Tom, but I'm generally open to that if the idea is for everybody to get all the input. And what it may be, maybe the answer though is, in this initial stage where we're collecting just feedback on the process or what we're looking for, whatever, we use sort of a central mailbox, and then we ask folks to reach out to our distribution list when we're in the sort of finalist interview and selection phase, so that we all get that. I don't know that we all, plus everybody from the central office that's on the distro needs to get,
If you're going to set up a central box,
use it for everything.
well, here's the thing. If you're going to set up a central box, there has to be some processing of that, for lack of a better way to say it. In which case, SurveyMonkey is your easiest thing. Just put a question out there that says, what are your thoughts or concerns for the superintendent search? One question, allow free form text, and then you can run a report and get everything out,
Yeah.
right? And just open and close the survey for a little bit, but the survey is basic, no like, high, medium, lows or anything else like that. Just
Yeah.
Right.
what are your biggest
principals share it, right?
principals can share it, it can go out on, for the Friday afternoon publication, we can put it in our packets, whatever, so, and then it's available.
Whoever wants
So
to weigh
a
in.
very light version of the
Just a
survey.
very, very light,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
that way there's
That's-
nothing for anybody to collate, there's nothing for anybody to like, oh, have I read everything?
Yeah,
And the results are just at a fingertip in terms of a
maybe
print
we
and
ask
ready to
like
go.
one demographic question, like what's your connection to the district?
Yeah.
So that we can just sort it that way, but other than that, yeah, I think that makes sense.
I was going to recommend that. So if you got 167 responses last time, sorting through 167 emails, this is probably a more efficient way to do that.
Yeah.
You also may get more people to respond. Instead of asking them to respond open-endedly, it'll just via an email. If it's a survey, it may get, an easier entry point. I love that idea.
Yeah.
So that's
I do too, that's a good idea.
Okay. Okay. I think that's it.
Just vote?
We don't need to vote on the focus groups.
No. Did we
That's
vote
great.
on this yet?
Yes, we did. We voted on the composition.
We voted on the composition of the screening committee.
The timeline
We'll
and
bring the
process.
timeline on the 22nd. And
Okay.
then, yeah, I think the process we're fine as well. Since we're
Okay.
not hiring somebody, I'm not worried about a vote there.
Okay.
It goes without saying, but there's already 6 of us here, but and I know you're already talking to Carla, so if you can't talk to so many of us, but if you wanted to and you wanted to compare notes about what was done before, I'm available if you want me to.
Yep. And I can talk to as many of you as I want in terms of gathering information and data from the past. We just can't deliberate on decisions that have to be made necessarily. So yeah, we're good there. But yeah, that's a good watch area, because this is definitely the kind of topic that we could get ourselves into trouble, so.
And in that same vein, like, you're obviously taking on a huge time commitment with this, so first off, thank you proactively, but
Sure.
In any ways that we can help, if there are, you know, pockets to be filled, I hope you'll reach out and not feel like you have to do it all.
If we are going to get this done in 3 months, it is all hands on deck. So,
Yeah, okay.
I will not be shy. Yeah,
You know how to get a hold of us.
I do.
Awesome. Motion
Please.
to adjourn?
Second.
Seconded by Aaron. That is not debatable. Sarah?
Sarah froze.
Sarah froze. All right, Sarah doesn't want to adjourn, but maybe we can outvote her. Aaron?
Yes.
Tom? Yes. Carla?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Sean, yes. Sarah
Bye-bye.
defers. We are adjourned 5-0. Thanks, everyone.